So sorry, this is going to be in two parts. I'm still in chapter 8 on page 96. My computer had a weird glitch and it closed my Zoom. So I'm just making a new one. You'll just hopefully you're watching the first video first and then this one second. So if this is the first one you clicked on and you haven't watched the other one next to it, don't watch me yet. Watch me after you've watched through the other one. Anyways, starting on page 96, and we left off where he was trying to maneuver like something through the cage of the snakes, but couldn't, and it says there's too much of an angle. Now figuring this out had become a challenge. Ben forgets about Mrs. Tippett's warning. He gives the cage another shake, but nothing happens. The cage door is held closed with a hasp. A twist tie, something you use on plastic bags, holds the hasp closed. If I open the door a tiny bit, Ben thinks, I can get the stick into the nesting area and move it around a little. Then I'll close the door quickly as soon as the snake shows itself. Ben carefully unwinds the tie on the hasp and takes it off, stuffing it in his jacket pocket. He tries to pull back on the door, but the cage is old and the door sticks a little. He gives it a harder yank and it pops open. There's still no movement from the closed off area, so he slides the stick in along the floor, keeping the door open just enough for the width of the stick. He pushes it onto the enclosure and moves it around. There's something in there. He tries to slide the stick underneath it and lift it a little. He doesn't want to poke it. Whatever it is, it's heavy and it moves against the stick. Then he sees it. A dark triangular head emerges from the hole in the closed-off area. Ben's heart starts thumping. It's definitely a poisonous snake, but he's not sure what kind. Its tongue clicks out, testing the air in the cage. The snake freezes at the entrance of the hidden part of the cage. Just as Ben is thinking he should close the cage door, he hears a car pull in the driveway. Mrs. Tippet's is back. He doesn't think it's possible for his heart to beat any faster, but it does. He pulls the stick out of the cage and slams the cage door, but it bounces back open. It's a little warped and doesn't fit very well. Now the snake is slowly pulling itself out of the enclosure. Ben's mind races in a million different directions at once. With one hand, he digs in his pocket, feeling for the little tie that sealed the door, and with the other hand, he tries to force the cage shut. He hears the car door open and close. Ben knows that Mrs. Tippet's will come up the walkway between the garage and the house, and that she'll be able to see him from there if she bothers to look over. He gives up searching for the twist tie and presses both hands flat against the wire of the door, trying to close it all the way. The snake glides around the side of the cage. Its skin is a mottled tan with dark brown stripes. Its underside, a yellowish white. The tail part is dark with a rattle at the end. Ben breathes more quickly as he sees the size of the creature, 3 or 4 feet long and as thick around as his forearm. He imagines it striking out and biting his hand. His heart pounds. Then he sees another triangular head emerge from the nesting area. There are 2 of them. Hello? Is someone there? He can't see Mrs. Tippet's, but she must have heard him. Ben's back is prickly with sweat and fear. He shoves the door as tight as it will go. His only hope is to distract Mrs. Tippet's and pretend that he's just gotten here, then come back in a minute and make sure that the snake hasn't gotten out. With one last push of the door, Ben steps away from the cage and walks out in a wide circle away from the garage as if he's just come from the woods. He still can't see her. Hello, he calls out. Is that you, Mrs. Tippet's? He heads quickly toward the walkway, keeping a distance from the back of the garage where the cage is. Oh, Ben, what a surprise, Mrs. Tippet's is smiling. Ben waves and takes a quick glance at the cage. The door has swung wide open, but it's too late to do anything about that, at least right now. Hi, he says, hoping his voice doesn't sound too quivery. I was walking out in the back of my house. I found this trail, and then I recognized where I was. Oh, how wonderful, Mrs. Tippett said. She's holding 2 big bags of groceries. I thought there was a way around there, but it's been a long time since I've explored that part of the woods. Here, hold these, please, while I unlock my back door. She hands Ben the bag of groceries while she fumbles with her keys. The cage is just out of view. Ben feels like he wants to throw up, but he has to stand there calmly, pretending that nothing's wrong. Why don't you come in for just a minute, she says, as she opens the door. You can put the groceries over there. There's nothing Ben can do but walk in and put the bags on the counter. I have to get back, he says, desperate to escape. Don't be silly, you came all this way. Stay for a minute. Let me see what I have here for a quick snack. That would be great, Mrs. Tibbets, but I really do have to go. My mom doesn't know where I am or anything. Well, all right, she says, and Ben makes a beeline for the door. Oh, wait, she says, I forgot. I've got something for you. Ben follows her out the door along the walkway. Terrified that she is going to walk toward the lean-to, he tries to think of something to do, some way to stop her. But she goes right to the garage, opens the door, and disappears in the dark coolness. Ben sticks his head in. The garage is piled high with things. You couldn't park a car in here if you had to. I saw it the other day and I meant to give it to you, Mrs. Tibbet says as she squeezes between a pile of tools and a stack of boxes. Ah, here it is. She holds up a short-handled net. This should help you with those peepers. Thanks, Ben says. Half an hour ago, he would have been thrilled and eager to tell her he had caught a peeper with his bare hands. Now he just wants to get away from here. That's great. I really have to go. All right, she says. I'll see you at school tomorrow. And remember, the night of the Spadefoots could happen any day now. I hope you still like to come. Yeah, sure, Ben says. He walks out of the garage with Mrs. Tibbets a few feet behind him. Instead of heading directly for the woods, Ben hangs back, praying that Mrs. Tibbets won't decide to go check out the cage. Thanks a lot, he says. Mrs. Tibbets stands at her back door for a moment, waving at him, then steps inside and shuts it. Ben walks around to the side of the garage and stops. He waits a minute, then tiptoes back to the lean-to. The door of the cage is wide open. He sucks in a deep breath and walks over for a closer look. The snakes are in the outer area of the cage. He lets out a breath all at once, like he's been holding it in for an hour. He glances around his feet for any glimpse of them, but tells himself they probably just slithered back into their nest. He fumbles in his pocket for a twist tie, shuts the door as tight as he can get it, and then flaps down the hasp. His fingers are shaking. It's a struggle, but he finally manages to fasten it with a tie. Ben knows he should have checked to make sure that the snakes were definitely in there, but he tears across the field and plunges into the woods. Frantic to get home, he barely even glances at the vernal pool. As he approaches the path that leads to his backyard, he realizes that he is gripping the net Mrs. Tibbets gave him. That is the end of chapter 8. I will continue with our final chapter for the week, chapter 9, in the next video. Thanks for listening.